After 11 years building my family's restaurant into a local gem, my parents replaced me with my MBA-toting little brother. 9 days later, they lost an $850,000 deal I had secured, and then came begging for my help. The award plaque slips from my hands as I stand motionless in the doorway of Riverside Ember's private dining room. The glass trophy shatters against the gleaming hardwood floor, the sharp crack echoing like a gunshot in the heavy silence. No one even reacts. Their attention remains fixed on the projection screen, where my brother's PowerPoint presentation shines with polished corporate certainty. Riverside Ember's Expansion Strategy, CEO Caleb Morgan. CEO Caleb Morgan. My throat tightens as I take in the faces gathered around our antique mahogany table. My father's proud expression, my mother's eager hands folded together, and my brother standing confidently at the head of the table in his perfectly tailored suit. My table, the seat I have occupied through more than a decade of family meetings. "Jovi," Dad says, clearing his throat. "You're late. We've already begun the annual meeting." Annual meeting? My voice sounds distant, as though it belongs to someone else. You moved it up by 2 weeks. The restaurant's 15th anniversary celebration is tomorrow. I've been working on preparations all morning. Caleb advances to the next slide. That's precisely why we need to formalize the transition now. The celebration provides the ideal opportunity for an announcement. Transition? The word tastes sharp and bitter. Mom leans forward, smiling softly. "Honey, we've transferred operational control to Caleb, effective immediately. We wanted to surprise you." "Congratulations," I whisper, but my voice is swallowed by the sound of everything I believed in collapsing around me. Only a week ago, I stood beneath dazzling lights at the Portland Culinary Excellence Awards, accepting Seafood Dish of the Year for my king crab with tangerine glaze. The crowd had risen in applause, yet during our family celebration afterward, my parents barely touched their meals. "It's nice, Jovi," Dad had remarked, swirling his wine thoughtfully, "but it's not scalable. We need to think bigger." Meanwhile, they toasted Caleb, his business school connections, his modern strategies, his supposed vision. Never mind that while he visited during occasional summer breaks, I devoted endless nights to refining recipes, forging relationships with local suppliers, and doubling our revenue within 5 years. Now I grip the back of a chair to steady myself. "You can't be serious. I earned a culinary degree. I developed our marketing strategy. I doubled our profits." "And we appreciate that, honey," Dad replies, his voice dripping with patronizing reassurance. "You're exceptional in the kitchen, but Caleb understands business operations. You can continue as our head chef." Head chef. As if I haven't been managing every aspect of this restaurant for years while they relaxed at their lakeside retreat. As if the awards, the glowing reviews, and the loyal customers who know me by name carry no weight. The trembling in my hands fades as a strange clarity settles over me. I reach into my pocket, remove my restaurant keys, and place them deliberately on the table. The metallic sound rings louder than any argument. "I'm not just your chef," I say quietly. "I built this brand." Caleb exhales with theatrical patience. "See, Dad? This is exactly what I warned you about. She's too emotional when it comes to business decisions." Dad frowns. "Jovi, you must understand. This isn't personal. It's about growth and scalability." "Not personal?" A sharp laugh escapes me, unfamiliar even to my own ears. "You blindsided me during the anniversary celebration I organized. You didn't consult me about changes to the restaurant I've dedicated 11 years to building." "That's enough," Mom interrupts firmly. "Caleb has an MBA. He knows what he's doing." And there it is, the familiar pattern. They instinctively defend him, dismissing my concerns as emotional reactions rather than legitimate insight. It's not only my role at risk, but my professional reputation, the standards I've established, and the relationships I've cultivated with both suppliers and guests. As I watch them gathered together, a realization forms with painful clarity. They have never viewed me as an equal partner. To them, I've always been staff, the dependable worker who keeps everything functioning while they claim authority. "You know what?" I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "Maybe you're right. Maybe Caleb should take over." Their shoulders visibly relax. "But remember this moment," I continue, stepping toward the door. "Because when you realize what you've thrown away, don't expect me to fix it." I turn and walk out, leaving behind the shattered award that suddenly holds no meaning. Later that night, I return intending only to retrieve my apron from the office, not to uncover the extent of my brother's betrayal. Yet there it is on Caleb's open laptop, the West Shore Grand Hotel logo glaring from the screen. My vision narrows as I read the email, gripping the doorframe for support. Dear Mr. Morgan, we acknowledge your cancellation of Thursday's contract meeting. While we regret postponing discussions regarding the $850,000 catering partnership, we anticipate your presentation of more streamlined, cost-effective alternatives to the original menu proposal. The room seems to tilt. That meeting wasn't his to cancel. I had spent 6 months cultivating that partnership, crafting seasonal menus and calculating precise food costs to maintain quality while ensuring profitability. $850,000, nearly a quarter of our yearly revenue, dismissed with a single message. I scroll further, nausea rising. Regarding your request to modify the award-winning seafood selections, we remain open to alternatives, provided they uphold the excellence demonstrated during our initial tasting with Chef Jovi. The betrayal cuts deeper than I imagined. Just weeks ago, Caleb had hovered beside my station, asking detailed questions about my tangerine glaze recipe, claiming he wanted to learn. Now I see the truth. He wasn't learning. He was positioning himself to replace me. Anger surges through me like a physical force. 6 years of culinary training, 11 years of relentless work, all dismantled so easily. The following morning, I enter Riverside Ember through the service entrance 30 minutes before a supplier meeting I wasn't invited to attend. The kitchen staff exchange anxious glances as I pass. I pause outside the private dining room, hearing Caleb's confident voice through the slightly open door. Marcus, our fish supplier of 8 years, sits at the table with a troubled expression. Beside him is Eleanor, whose family farm has provided our produce for years. Caleb sits opposite them, wearing a charcoal suit, still marked with the Taylor stock. The premium seafood orders are unsustainable at our current scale, Caleb explains smoothly, sliding glossy folders toward them. We'll transition to a supplier with nationwide distribution. Marcus clears his throat, his voice strained. Chef Jovi chose our products because we guarantee same-day catch. Your customers will notice the difference. Our customers want value and consistency, Caleb replies. Similarly, Eleanor, we'll consolidate produce orders through Portland Restaurant Supply for better margins. Eleanor's weathered hands tighten around her mug. The tomatoes you love grow in my southeastern field. They receive morning sun and afternoon shade. That's why they're sweeter than wholesale produce.
I push the door open, unable to remain silent. 3 faces turn toward me. Jovi, Caleb says coolly, this is a private meeting. With my suppliers, I reply, stepping beside Marcus and Eleanor, the people who built our reputation. Caleb sighs. My sister is struggling to accept the new direction. Please direct all inquiries to me. What new direction? I demand, reaching for the folder before Marcus. Inside are redesigned menus. My king crab with tangerine glaze is gone. So is my cedar plank salmon with huckleberry reduction. In their place are generic listings, grilled seafood platter, fish of the day. You're standardizing everything, I say. For expansion. We're creating scalable systems, Caleb corrects, rising from his chair. Dad and Mom agree. The truth becomes painfully clear. This isn't just about my role. It's about erasing everything I've built. My reputation, my customers, the West Shore contract that could have secured our future. Marcus, I ask quietly, what happens to your business without our orders? He shakes his head. We'll manage, but 2 boats fish mainly for Riverside Ember. I'll have to let one captain go. Eleanor adds softly that she expanded her heirloom crops based on my menu plans. Without our purchases, she'll lose half her harvest. Caleb clears his throat dismissively. These are unfortunate but necessary adjustments. And speaking of adjustments, Jovi, we should discuss your compensation. The head chef role doesn't justify executive-level salary. The insult strikes like a blow. 11 years of devotion, reduced to a demotion and pay cut while my work is dismantled in the name of efficiency. That evening, after the others leave, Daniel finds me in the kitchen packing my personal knives. After 8 years as my sous chef, his voice carries quiet loyalty. The staff stands with you. Whatever you choose, we believe in your standards. As I wrap my Santoku knife, a heavy question lingers. Should I stay and fight for what I built, or leave and begin again? Fighting would mean daily conflict with my family. Leaving would mean abandoning everything I created. What do you do when those who should value you most refuse to see your worth? 2 days later, a meeting invitation appears in my inbox. Menu overhaul implementation, mandatory attendance. Caleb scheduled it during prep time, knowing I would be busiest. The conference room hums with tension when I arrive late, hands still damp from chopping vegetables. Caleb stands at the head of the table, my place, his polished suit contrasting sharply with my flower-streaked coat. Perfect timing, Jovi, he says,
presenting a simplified menu stripped of my signature dishes. These changes take effect tomorrow. But the king crab with tangerine glaze is our most requested dish, Lauren protests. Regular customers come specifically for it. Caleb's smile tightens. The new menu prioritizes efficiency. We cannot depend on one chef's specialties. One chef, as if I am merely another employee rather than the foundation of this restaurant's reputation. The consequences follow swiftly. Loyal patrons question the missing dishes. Mrs. Abernathy, who celebrated her anniversary here for 8 years, leaves without ordering when told her favorite is no longer available. What happened to the quality becomes a common refrain. Caleb always blames the kitchen staff, never his policies. Lauren apologizes repeatedly for meals she knows fall short. Then comes the devastating review from Portland Plate titled, "Has Riverside Ember Lost Its Flame?" The writer questions whether the restaurant has sacrificed quality for mass appeal. In the kitchen, the changes continue. My custom smoker, imported mandolin, and precision thermometers disappear, replaced by rows of identical deep fryers. Caleb said we need more fryer capacity, Daniel explains quietly. Your equipment is in storage. Each night I lie awake replaying recipes in my mind. Cooking, once my passion, now feels like a burden. The kitchen that once provided solace has become a battleground. Staff members walk cautiously, torn between loyalty and fear. When I instruct cooks to finish salmon with compound butter, Caleb overrides me moments later, insisting on standardized methods. But cooking is art, science, and instinct combined. His rigid system strips away its soul. After a particularly exhausting service where multiple dishes are returned, I retreat to the walk-in cooler, pressing my forehead against the cold shelves. Tears threaten, but I refuse to surrender. That night I began recording everything, recipes, techniques, supplier contacts, in a leather journal. If I cannot preserve my kitchen, I will preserve my legacy. The following evening, I discover a small tangerine placed carefully at my station. Beneath it lies a handwritten note from Daniel. Your recipes, your vision. Some things can't be replaced, even by an MBA. For the first time in weeks, I smile. The breaking point arrives during preparations for the West Shore Grand Executive Dinner. The kitchen vibrates with tension as the staff rushes to prepare for the most critical service since Caleb assumed control. The $850,000 contract hangs in the balance. I'm adjusting the seasoning of a sauce reduction when my father appears in the doorway, Caleb beside him. Jovi, we need to talk about tonight's menu, Dad says, his voice carefully modulated. Caleb has some concerns about your preparations. My preparations are exactly what won us this opportunity in the first place, I reply, not looking up from the simmering pot. Jovi, you need to accept that Caleb's in charge now, Dad says, stepping closer. This is business, not personal. The wooden spoon freezes in my hand. Everything about food is personal. That's why people come back. They don't connect with efficiency, they connect with passion. The West Shore people want to see scalable concepts, Caleb interrupts, not fancy one-offs that only you can execute. His words crystallize everything wrong with their vision. They don't want a restaurant, they want a production line. They don't want my food, they want something anyone could make. You know what I realized? I say, setting down the spoon and untying my apron. We don't share the same values anymore. You see food as a commodity, I see it as an experience. Don't be dramatic, Dad says. We're talking about a business decision. No, we're talking about my life's work. I face them both squarely. I'm not going to watch you destroy what I've built. I quit, and I'm taking my recipes with me. The kitchen falls silent. Even the hood vents seem to hold their breath. You can't quit, Caleb sputters. Not tonight, not with West Shore coming. Watch me. I haven't even reached the door when Daniel steps forward. If Chef Jovi's leaving, so I am too. 3 more cooks remove their aprons. The sous chef, the pastry chef, the line lead. My people, my team. Later that evening, my phone buzzes with a text from Eleanor, my produce supplier. Wherever you land, your special ordering arrangement comes with you. Quality recognizes quality. For the first time, I allow myself to envision something new. Not fighting for scraps of respect in my family's restaurant, but building something truly mine. That night, I sketch concepts for my own restaurant in the margins of my recipe journal, the pages filled with possibilities rather than grievances. The next morning, I make 2 calls. First to Anthony Vicente, West Shore Grant's culinary director, requesting a private meeting. The second call surprises even me. As I clear out my office, a business card falls from my desk calendar. Marianne Wells, restaurant space realtor. We'd met at a Chamber of Commerce event months ago, and she'd mentioned a prime location opening in the Pearl District. I pick up my phone, my fingers steady as I dial her number. Marianne, it's Jovi Morgan. I think I'm ready for that space we discussed.
A week later, my portfolio slides across the polished mahogany table toward Jason Mercer, whose weathered hands have funded 3 of Portland's most successful restaurants. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the conference room of Portland First Capital. I've followed your work at Riverside Ember for years, Jason says, studying my king crab with tangerine glaze photo. Your flavor combinations are remarkable. I straighten my burgundy blazer, channeling confidence I've rebuilt over the past week. My vision is modern American cuisine, featuring sustainable, local ingredients. The dishes that won awards weren't flukes, they were the culmination of relationships with suppliers who understand my standards. Jason nods appreciatively. Most chefs talk ingredients, you talk relationships and systems. That's refreshing. I've prepared for this moment meticulously, rehearsing my pitch while designing my business plan into the early hours. The separation from Riverside Ember burns fresh, but determination has replaced the initial shock. I won't just recreate what worked before, I explain, turning to the financial projections. I've identified exactly where costs can be trimmed without compromising quality. Before I finish my presentation, Jason leans forward. I'll back you. Your portfolio speaks for itself, but your clarity about lessons learned from the family business tells me you're ready to lead. How soon can you secure a location? A weight lifts from my shoulders. Actually, I found a space in the Pearl District. The previous restaurant closed 3 months ago. Fully equipped kitchen, excellent foot traffic. Jason raises an eyebrow. Impressive preparation. 2 hours later, I stand in the empty restaurant space, negotiating terms with the property manager. Sunlight spills through windows that will soon showcase Jovi's hearth to passersby. Each decision feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. Back at my apartment, my phone buzzes with a text from Daniel. Disaster at West Shore Grand Meeting. Execs not happy. Caleb sweating bullets. I pour a glass of Pinot Noir, savoring both the flavor and the news. The meeting Caleb hijacked from me has apparently gone exactly as I predicted. Daniel calls an hour later. You would have laughed, he says, his voice hushed. Caleb tried serving your tangerine glaze, but it was nothing like yours. Too sweet, weird consistency. He added too much sugar to compensate for using inferior tangerines, I reply, knowing my brother's tendencies. The executives noticed immediately. One of them actually asked where you were. Daniel chuckles. They cut the meeting short, saying they needed to reconsider certain aspects of the partnership. Caleb looked like he might throw up. I lean back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. And the fallout? Chaos. Caleb's calling every supplier, trying to figure out what's wrong with the ingredients. But Elamar's not answering his calls, and Marcus told him the premium seafood he's been getting was based on your relationship. Relationships take years to build, I murmur. That's not all, Daniel continues. 3 corporate events canceled today. Word spreading about quality issues. Your parents look shell-shocked. The news should feel more satisfying than it does. Instead, I feel a complicated tangle of vindication and sadness for the restaurant's reputation I worked so hard to build. My phone beeps with an incoming call. Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then listen. Jovi, honey, please call us back. The West Shore Grand Dinner is next week, and we need your help. The family needs you, please. Her voice cracks on the final plea. I press my forehead against the cool window glass, watching traffic below. When my mother called that evening, tearfully asking me to save the family by helping with the West Shore Grand Dinner, I hesitated. Would returning to help preserve what I'd built show strength, or would it simply enable more of the same behavior that pushed me out? The next morning, Daniel arrives at my apartment with a folder. Thought you might want these, he says, sliding a stack of papers across my kitchen counter. Daily revenue reports, reservation numbers, customer complaints. They're spiraling. I flip through the documents, noting the sharp decline. They'll blame external factors. They're trying, but the numbers don't lie. Daniel leans against the counter. The kitchen staff is with you. Just say the word. Later, Eleanor introduces me to specialty farmers from the Willamette Valley, who can supply Jovi's hearth with heirloom vegetables unavailable to larger restaurants. We walk between rows of rainbow chard, the morning dew still clinging to the leaves. These families have been farming for generations, Eleanor explains. They're excited about working with a chef who appreciates their craft. Marcus calls while I'm driving home. Jovi, I've got a shipment of Alaskan king crab coming next week, premium quality, and I'm having dinner with Thomas Reynolds tomorrow night. I nearly swerve. The Thomas Reynolds? From Coastal Ventures? The very same. He's looking to invest in a new restaurant concept. I might have mentioned your name. The pieces fall into place faster than I dared hope. With Marcus's seafood connections, Eleanor's produce network, and Daniel's insider information, I can accelerate my timeline by weeks. That afternoon, I receive an email that makes my hands tremble. West Shore Grand executives requesting a meeting to discuss my independent culinary concepts. They found me.
Meanwhile, Riverside Ember's social media pages fill with questions. Where's Chef Jovi? Is she coming back? One review reads, food quality has declined dramatically, missing the previous chef's touch. My father's voicemails felt increasingly desperate. Jovi, this West Shore contract is critical for our expansion. Please reconsider. We can talk about your position. The crack in their facade widens with each passing day. Pride crumbles under the weight of consequences, revealing the truth I've always known. They need me far more than I need them. I stand in the empty space that will become Jovi's hearth, envisioning the future taking shape, a future built on respect, quality, and my unwavering standards. For the first time since walking out of Riverside Ember, I smile without reservation. A week later, the sight of my father's Lexus pulling up outside my new restaurant space sends a wave of satisfaction through me. For once, they're coming to me. I stand in the doorway watching as all three emerge. Dad with his shoulders unnaturally stiff, Mom glancing nervously at the for lease sign, now sporting a bold pending sticker, and Caleb trailing behind in uncharacteristic silence. Jovi, Dad attempts a warm smile that doesn't reach his eyes. This is interesting. A bit small compared to Riverside, isn't it? I don't respond, simply holding the door open. The construction dust hangs in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. Exposed brick walls and reclaimed wood flooring create exactly the atmosphere I've envisioned. We've been trying to reach you, Mom says, her fingers worrying at her pearl necklace. The restaurant needs you. Caleb clears his throat. We've developed a new proposal. He pulls out a leather portfolio. Equal partnership between us. You handle the kitchen, I manage the business side. With us retaining final decision authority, Dad adds quickly, for continuity. When I don't immediately respond, his tone shifts. The family legacy is at stake, Jovi. Don't you care about what Grandpa built? What we've all built together? Mom steps closer, her voice softening. We're offering you what you wanted. Why are you being so stubborn? I walk to the makeshift desk in the corner, where my laptop sits open. You know what's interesting? You never once asked what I actually wanted. I turn the screen toward them, revealing my business plan. And now it's too late. Their confused expressions fuel something warm in my chest. I secured my own funding 2 weeks ago. The lease is signed. I pull out a folder and remove a document with the West Shore Grand logo emblazoned across the top. And this arrived yesterday. And this, Dad snatches it, eyes widening as he reads.
This is a letter of intent for partnership. $500,000? Exclusive arrangement featuring my signature dishes. I can't help the pride in my voice. They were quite interested in working with the actual chef behind the award-winning menu, not a corporate substitute. You can't do this, Caleb stammers. The West Shore deal was ours. It was mine. I cultivated that relationship for 3 years. I moved to the center of the room. I didn't want partnership. I wanted respect. And I found investors who give me both. From another folder, I withdraw a stack of papers and hand them to my father. These might interest you too. He flips through the printouts, color draining from his face. Online reviews of Riverside Ember since my departure. Quality has plummeted. Not the restaurant. Where's the chef who made this place special? Mom peers over his shoulder, her hand covering her mouth. I walk past them toward the kitchen area, gesturing at the space around us. The hood ventilation goes in next week. We're keeping the open kitchen concept, but expanding the chef's counter to seat 12. I ignore their attempts to interject. The wine program will feature small local vineyards, and we're installing a wood-fired oven there. Dad's face reddens. You're making a mistake. The Riverside Ember name has recognition. People know us. Maybe. I was never building your brand. I was building mine. The truth feels liberating. People came from my food, not your name. That's what you never understood. The front door chimes, and 2 men in coveralls enter, carrying a large package. Delivery for Jovi Morgan? Perfect timing, I say, signing for the package. The men carefully unwrap it, revealing a copper sign with hand-hammered letters, Jovi's Hearth. The men hold it up against the exposed brick wall above where the entrance to the dining room will be. Soft copper glows in the afternoon light. You'll lose everything, Caleb says, but his voice wavers. I already did. 11 years of work. My family's trust. I turn to face him fully. But I'm building something better. Caleb's perfect composure finally cracks. We can't recreate your dishes. Nothing tastes the same. The seafood supplier won't even return my calls. That's because cooking isn't a business formula. It's a relationship with the food and the people you serve. I run my hand along the reclaimed wood counter. You can't quantify passion or personal connection.
When they leave, shoulders slumped into feet, I stand in the center of my space. My restaurant, my future. The satisfaction is deeper than I expected. 2 weeks later, Daniel forwards me an email about Riverside Ember seeking a bridge loan to cover operational shortfalls. Regular customers have been drifting away, and rumors spread about a complete menu overhaul and a desperate bid to rebrand. The family question remains unresolved. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Mom just today, but I'm not ready to answer. Not yet. There's too much to do, too much at stake. On the night of Jovi's Hearth soft opening, I weave between tables filled with food critics, loyal former customers, and industry friends. The kitchen hums with the beautiful chaos I've created, executing my vision precisely as I imagined. Near closing, I emerge for a final greeting round when I spot her, my mother, sitting alone at a corner table, a half-finished plate of my king crab with tangerine glaze before her. Our eyes meet across the room, and for the first time in months, I see something beyond the disappointment and manipulation. Recognition. 6 months later, the copper saucepan sings against the flame as I reduce the tangerine glaze, no longer needing to justify my decision to triple the fresh fruit or the splash of bourbon I add on instinct. Behind me, 3 line cooks move with practiced precision, their knives flashing as they prep for tonight's service. "Chef, we're ready for the tasting menu review," Daniel calls, now my executive sous chef, rather than just an ally in a kitchen that never truly valued either of us. I nod, allowing myself a moment to admire the gleaming expanse of Jovi's Hearth. My restaurant, my vision, my rules. The fall menu changes I've planned celebrate local harvests rather than compromising with frozen substitutes Caleb would have insisted upon. The seasonal rotation has become our hallmark, drawing praise from critics who once barely knew Riverside Ember existed. "Coming," I answer, wiping my hands on my apron as I move toward the prep station, where Zoe, a culinary student I've taken under my wing, anxiously awaits my verdict on her sauce work. "The consistency is perfect," I tell her, remembering how my mother once dismissed my first reduction as too fussy. I add, "Now tell me why you chose thyme instead of rosemary." Her explanation shows promise. This is how mentorship should feel, not dismissal dressed as guidance, but genuine investment in someone's growth. Later, my phone buzzes with another reservation request. We're booked solid through December, with food critics from Chicago and New York requesting tables. National press attention has turned our corner of Portland into a destination, vindicating every sleepless night spent perfecting recipes in my tiny apartment kitchen after leaving my family's restaurant. The afternoon mail brings an envelope from the American Culinary Federation. Inside, an invitation to next month's award ceremony, where Jovi's Hearth is nominated for Restaurant of the Year. The same ceremony where, just 18 months ago, I stood clutching an award while my parents whispered about my brother's business acumen. When the announcement comes at the gala, I don't drop the plaque in shock like last time. Instead, I accept it with steady hands, the spotlight warm on my face as I thank my team by name. Daniel, Eleanor, who still supplies our produce, Marcus, whose seafood makes our signature dishes possible, and every cook who believed enough to follow me. Success isn't just about proving others wrong, I tell the audience, my voice carrying confidence I've earned through fire. It's about proving yourself right. Back at the restaurant, we gather after closing. Eleanor brings champagne while Marcus proudly displays the first advance copy of my cookbook. Daniel uncorks a bottle with a satisfying pop, filling glasses around our family table, the one where staff meals are shared, not where decisions are dictated. To building something that truly reflects who we are, I toast, not who others think we should be. Their glasses rise in response, light catching the bubbles inside. The next morning, spread across my desk, 5 different expansion offers from luxury hotels sit alongside an invitation to judge the Pacific Northwest culinary competition. My grandfather's weathered photo watches from its frame beside my awards, his original diner that started it all before business plans and MBAs entered our family vocabulary. A knock at my office door reveals Caleb, resume in hand, here for the operations director interview I agreed to after our mother's tearful intervention at Christmas. As I consider whether to bring my brother into my business, I wonder if some family relationships can be rebuilt on new foundations, or if some bridges, once burned, should stay crossed. Would you give someone who betrayed you professionally a second chance if they showed genuine change, or is business and family best kept permanently separate? Sometimes the biggest favor someone can do is underestimate you. It forces you to truly value yourself.